all sentient beings. No restrictions based on species, origin, or previous political allegiance. We offer advanced technology, superior medical care, and freedom from bureaucratic control. Transportation to Terran space will be provided for accepted applicants. The message repeated in hundreds of languages. Within hours, the first ships began departing Council space, not warships. Civilian vessels filled with beings who decided that humanity offered a better future than the Council, engineers, scientists, doctors, teachers, skilled workers of every kind. Abandoning the Council to join the humans, Chancellor Trell watched the tracking data with disbelief. They are stealing our people, Oyavik said. They are offering opportunity. Something we apparently forgot to do. The exodus accelerated. Entire research teams departed. Medical staffs resigned en masse. Even some minor species governments began negotiating with humanity for partnership agreements. The Council was fracturing, and everyone knew it. Counselor Vess, who had remained silent throughout the crisis, finally spoke. We need to understand what we are dealing with. The humans did not stumble into our galaxy unprepared. They knew exactly what they were doing from the moment they made contact. The question is, what else do they have that we have not seen? The answer came 3 days later. Long-range sensors detected something at the edge of human space. Something massive. Energy signatures that made Council dreadnoughts look like toys. When the analysis came through, Admiral Cross felt his respiratory systems constrict. Oh, they are calling it a Sovereignty-class ship. We have never seen anything like it. The ship sat at the border of human space, making no aggressive moves. Just waiting, watching. But the truly terrifying part was the identification. Data showing 46 more identical vessels taking positions along the entire human frontier. The message was clear. Humanity was not running. They were not hiding. They were ready for anything the Council might try. And the Council was just beginning to understand how unprepared they were for humanity. The Sovereignty-class vessels changed everything each. Ship measured 15 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that Council scientists could not identify. Their energy shields operated on principles that seemed to violate known physics. They moved with impossible precision, maintaining perfect formation across light years of space. But they did not attack. They simply waited. Scholar Drex, the Council's chief technology analyst, presented his findings to an emergency session. His multiple eyes blinked in patterns that suggested extreme stress. We analyzed the construction materials and energy signatures of the Terran vessels. Our conclusion is disturbing. These ships show at least 40 years of development. Humanity has only been in Council space for 30 years. The implication hung in the air like smoke. We're building these before they met us. Lisa's transmitted, her thoughts carrying waves of concern. Before first contact, before we even knew they existed. Correct, Drex confirmed. Which means humanity did not discover us accidentally. They found us deliberately. They studied us from a distance, learned everything they could, and only revealed themselves when they were ready. Chancellor Trell's armored plates shifted uneasily. How long were they watching us? We found something in the archives. 80 years ago, deep space monitoring stations detected unusual scanning patterns near the Sol system. Human space. We classified it as sensor noise and ignored it. They were studying us for 80 years before making contact. Torvin said, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Cross added more disturbing information. We reviewed the engagement where they disabled our enforcement fleet. They did not destroy a single ship. They targeted specific systems with surgical precision. They shut down our weapons, our engines, our communications. They knew our technology better than we do, because we gave it to them, Yavik said bitterly. Every joint research project, every technology exchange, every cultural mission, they were gathering intelligence while we thought we were making friends. A junior counselor named Rena, who rarely spoke in sessions, raised a tentative appendage. There is something else. I have been reviewing historical data. Quantum fluctuations. Communication echoes. Strange sensor readings over the past 200 years. We always dismissed them as natural phenomena. But if you map them chronologically, they cluster around major galactic events: wars, political crises, economic collapses. She displayed the data. The pattern was undeniable. Someone was watching, recording, learning from our mistakes. I believe it was humanity. They observed our entire civilization for centuries before making contact. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. The eager newcomers were actually patient observers. The cooperative partners were actually strategic planners. The species they had welcomed as students had been studying the teachers all along. A transmission arrived from Earth. Not from Ambassador Marcus this time. A new face appeared in the hologram. A dark-skinned woman with gray hair and cold eyes. I am Director Alina Vasquez, head of Terran Strategic Intelligence. By now, you have realized that humanity's integration into galactic society was more calculated than you believed. This is correct. We observed your civilization for 247 years before making contact. We watched your wars, analyzed your politics, studied your technology, and learned from your failures. She paused, letting that sink in. We did this because human history taught us that first contact is dangerous. The less advanced civilization usually suffers. We decided we would not be the less advanced civilization. So we prepared. When we finally revealed ourselves, we arrived ready to protect our interests. Why? Leases transmitted. Why deceive us? We did not deceive you. We simply controlled what you knew. Everything we told you was true. We just did not tell you everything. Your council was a learning opportunity. We needed to understand galactic politics from the inside. We needed to build relationships with individual species. We needed to establish infrastructure independent of your systems. Lena leaned forward. You accelerated our timeline by threatening us, but the outcome was inevitable. Humanity was always going to be independent. The only question was when. So every partnership was a lie, Torvin accused. Every partnership was genuine within the limits of our strategic goals. We respect many council species. We admire your achievements. We learned much from you. But we will never submit to external authority over our own survival. That is not negotiable. Transmission continued. The galaxy is changing. The Council's monopoly on interstellar governance is ending. Not because we destroyed it, but because alternatives exist now. Species have choices. Some will stay with the Council. Others will join us. Many will remain neutral. This is natural evolution. We are not your enemies. We are simply not your subjects anymore. How you respond to that reality will determine whether we remain neighbors or become something else. The hologram faded. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some demanded war. Others called for negotiation. Many simply sat in stunned silence, trying to process how completely their understanding of the situation had been wrong. Chancellor Trell called for order, but his authority seemed diminished. The council had revealed itself to be reactive, slow, and outmaneuvered at every turn. Trust in the central government was crumbling. Admiral Cross received new data, and his expression darkened. We have another situation. Multiple fleets have entered council space. Unknown configurations. They are not attacking, but they are taking defensive positions around our core worlds. Human reinforcements, Trell asked. No, they are not human vessels. They are something else. Alien designs we have never encountered. The sensor data appeared on the displays. Thousands of ships from species the Council had never seen, all moving with coordinated precision, all using technology that seemed compatible with human systems. A message accompanied the fleet. Attention, Galactic Council. The Terran Collective has informed us of your recent dispute. We are the Terran Alliance. We are here to demonstrate that humanity does not stand alone. Implications were staggering. While the Council had been focused on containing humanity within explored space, humans had been exploring beyond Council borders. They had found other species, made alliances, built an entirely separate political structure that the Council knew nothing about. Rena pulled up star charts showing the newly revealed territory. The Alliance controls at least 20,000 systems, maybe more. All outside Council space, all unified under human coordination. How many species? Trell asked weakly. Initial estimates suggest 60 to 70 different civilizations, some newly spacefaring, others quite advanced. All of them chose to join humanity rather than the Council. The galaxy was suddenly much bigger and much more complicated than anyone had realized, and humanity sat at the center of a power structure that rivaled the Council itself. They were building an empire while we debated regulations, Yavik said quietly. Not an empire, Kivra corrected. An alliance. There is a difference. Empires demand submission. Alliances offer partnership. The question hanging over the chamber was simple and terrifying. What happens now? Ambassador Marcus Webb returned to the Council chamber, but everything had changed. He walked down the central pathway with 16 beings beside him. The crystalline chamber stretched so high that its ceiling disappeared into artificial clouds. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood at the center of a circular platform, surrounded by energy barriers that hummed with barely contained power. Above him, thousands of alien beings sat in tiered galleries that spiraled upward like the inside of a massive seashell. Some had multiple eyes that tracked his every movement. Others communicated through bioluminescent patterns on their skin. A few existed as clouds of gas contained in transparent suits. This was the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council, and every one of them was staring at him. The High Chancellor. A being called Trell, who resembled a massive centipede with crystalline armor, raised several of his limbs for silence. The chamber's translation system converted his clicking speech into words Marcus could understand. The human stands accused of grave violations. Your species has expanded beyond the borders we assigned. You have built military installations without permission. You have refused to submit population reports for 3 standard cycles. Most concerning, you have developed weapons that violate the Prohibited Technologies Charter. Holographic displays materialized around Marcus, showing images of human ships, orbital platforms, and research facilities. The evidence looked damning. Marcus watched it all with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression calm. A delegate from the Vex species, a reptilian being named Torvin, slithered forward. We welcomed your kind 30 years ago. We offered you a place among civilized species. We shared our knowledge, our trade networks, our protection. And this is how you repay our generosity? With lies and weapons? Marcus said nothing. He simply stood there, waiting. Another voice echoed through the chamber. This one belonged to Lisa's, a floating jellyfish-like creature whose thoughts were transmitted directly into the minds of everyone present. You humans are dangerous, unpredictable. Your history on your own world is filled with violence and conflict. We gave you a chance to evolve beyond your primitive nature. Instead, you have proven that we were right to fear you. Finally, Marcus spoke. His voice was quiet, but the chamber's acoustics carried it to every corner. Are you finished? Trell's mandibles clicked in what might have been surprise. You have nothing to say in your defense? I have plenty to say. I was waiting to see if you had anything else to accuse us of. Anything you might have forgotten? The chamber rustled with confused murmurs. Trell continued, clearly annoyed. The Council has reached its decision. Humanity is hereby expelled from provisional membership. Your colonies will be dismantled. Your vessels will be impounded. Your species will be confined to your home system for 500 standard years. Military enforcement is already en route. Marcus nodded slowly. I see. And you believe you have the power to enforce this sentence? We have dispatched 10,000 warships to your territories, Trell announced proudly. They will ensure compliance. For the first time since entering the chamber, Marcus smiled. It was not a friendly expression. He reached into his jacket pocket. Immediately, every security system in the chamber activated. Weapons charged. Energy shields flared. Guards moved forward. Marcus pulled out a small data storage device and placed it gently on the podium in front of him. Then, I suppose, humanity's diplomatic relationship with the Galactic Council has reached its conclusion. Effective immediately, Earth and all human colonies Withdraw from every treaty, agreement, and arrangement with the Council. All human personnel are being recalled from Council space as I speak. All human technology licensed to member species is hereby revoked. All partnerships are dissolved. Chamber fell silent. Marcus continued. Furthermore, humanity is closing its borders. Permanently. No Council ships will be permitted in human space. No Council representatives will be granted access to our worlds. No Council laws will apply to human citizens. Torvin laughed, a hissing sound. You think you can simply leave? You think you can survive without us? We don't think it. We know it. We've been preparing for this possibility since the day we joined your council. It's impossible, Lisa's transmitted. We monitored your development. We tracked your expansion. We know everything about your capabilities, do you? Marcus asked. Then you know that every human in council. Space just boarded ships and departed within the last hours, synchronized, coordinated, as if we planned this long ago. Trells. Armored plates shifted uncomfortably. You are bluffing. Am I? Check your communications. Check your monitoring stations. Check any human facility in council space. The chamber erupted in activity as delegates contacted their homeworlds and stations. One by one, their expressions changed. Confusion, then concern. Then something approaching fear. They're gone, someone whispered. Every human, every facility, all abandoned. Marcus picked up the data device. This contains our final message to the Council. You wanted humanity isolated? You wanted us contained. You got your wish. But understand this. You didn't defeat us. You freed us from the obligation of pretending to respect your authority. He pressed a button on the device, and a holographic message played. It was simple, direct, and cold. To the Galactic Council, humanity thanks you for 30 years of education. We learned much about how galactic civilization functions, and how it fails. We are now returning to our own affairs. We wish you well. However, be advised. You have 30 days before the full consequences of this separation become clear. Use that time wisely. The hologram faded. Trell leaned forward. What consequences? What are you talking about? You'll see. Or rather, you won't see. That's the problem. Marcus turned to leave. The energy barriers preventing his exit flickered and died. He walked calmly toward the chamber doors as confused technicians tried to understand why their security systems just deactivated as he reached the exit. Marcus paused and looked back at the thousands of alien faces staring at him. One more thing. The galaxy is bigger than you think, and humanity has more friends than you realize. You spent 30 years teaching us about your civilization. We spent that same time building our own. Good luck managing without us. The doors closed behind him. For several long moments, the council chamber remained silent. Then the questions started. The accusations. The demands for answers. But the most important question came from a junior analyst named Kivra, whose quiet voice somehow cut through the chaos. Chancellor Trell, the economic report you requested. About human involvement in our infrastructure. Sir, you need to see this. The data appeared on the main display. Every delegate in the chamber read it simultaneously. And for the first time in the Council's 10,000-year history, true panic began to spread through the Grand Assembly because the report showed exactly how much of galactic civilization depended on human technology, human expertise. In human systems, and all of it was shutting down, the celebration lasted exactly 18 hours. When the Council first heard that humanity had withdrawn, many delegates cheered. The troublesome species was finally dealt with. The natural order was restored. The Council's authority was reaffirmed. Then the systems started failing. Counselor. Yavik of the Traitor Assembly was the first to sound the alarm. He burst into an emergency session with his biosuit flashing distress colors. The inter-system commerce network is offline. Completely dead. We cannot process transactions. We cannot track shipments. We cannot coordinate trade between systems. Chancellor Trell waved a dismissive limb. Then repair it. We have the best engineers in the galaxy. The network runs on human quantum processors. They designed the entire architecture. Our engineers are trying, but they estimate it will take years to rebuild using our old technology. Maybe decades. The word spread through the chamber like poison. Decades without functioning trade networks meant economic collapse for hundreds of worlds. But that was just the beginning. Medical Director Voss, a four-armed being covered in sensory tendrils, entered with worse news. We have a crisis in the healthcare sector. 43 member species were using human medical technology, regeneration treatments, genetic therapies, disease prevention protocols. The humans just deactivated every medical facility they operated. How many beings are affected? Lisa's asked, her mental voice tight with concern. Conservative estimate? 800 million currently in treatment, billions more who relied on preventative care. Torvin stood, his scales flushing red. This is an act of war. They are murdering people through neglect. No, Yavik said quietly. They are letting us use our own medicine again. Medicine that is centuries behind theirs. More reports flooded in. The agricultural optimization systems that fed 17 terraformed worlds were shutting down. Human technicians who maintained deep space monitoring stations had all departed, leaving massive gaps in the Council's intelligence network. The translation matrix that allowed thousands of different species to communicate was experiencing failures because its core processors were human-designed. Even the climate control systems on multiple stations were failing. Admiral Cross, the Council's military commander, brought the most disturbing news. We have lost contact with the enforcement fleet, all 10,000 ships. The last transmission we received was 6 hours ago. Lost contact. How? Trell demanded. The long-range communication relays they were using were maintained by human technicians. When the humans left, the relays went offline. Send a recovery team. What communication system, Chancellor? 40% of our deep space network was built or maintained by humans. The reality settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. For 30 years, humanity had quietly woven itself into the fabric of galactic civilization. Not through force or demands, but through simple competence. They offered better solutions. Species after species had accepted them without realizing they were building a dependency. Kivra, the junior analyst, presented the complete audit. The numbers were devastating. Energy distribution, 62% human technology. Agricultural systems, 71% human algorithms. Atmospheric processing, 84% human engineering. Medical technology, 56% human innovation. Even basic infrastructure like waste management and water purification on dozens of worlds relied on human systems. How did we not notice? Lisa's asked. How did one species become so essential? Because they never demanded control, Yavik answered. They offered help. They licensed technology cheaply. They trained our people. They seemed eager to integrate and contribute. We thought they were being cooperative. They were being strategic, Torvin hissed. They were being smart, Kiever corrected. They identified needs and filled them. We chose to accept their help. Now they are simply withdrawing that help. Chancellor Trell reviewed the data with growing horror. What are our options? We rebuild using our old technology. It will take years and cost trillions. Or we try to reverse engineer human systems. That could take even longer, and we might fail. Or what? Or we negotiate with them. Ask them to return. The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates refused to negotiate with the species that had deceived them. Others recognized that pride was a luxury they could not afford. A few suggested military action, though Admiral Cross quickly explained why that would be suicide. The debate raged for hours, but it became irrelevant when a new transmission arrived. It was broadcast on public frequencies across the entire galaxy. Not a diplomatic message. A commercial advertisement. A human woman appeared in the hologram, speaking calmly. The Terran Collective is now accepting citizenship applications from Y-represented species the Council had never encountered. Some were humanoid with crystalline skin that refracted light in rainbow patterns. Others were gaseous beings contained in elegant biomechanical suits. A few were insectoid, reptilian, or forms that defied easy classification. But all of them carried themselves with quiet confidence. The galleries were less crowded than before. Several species had withdrawn their representatives, declaring neutrality in the growing dispute. Others remained but sat in tense silence. Marcus stopped at the central platform, but did not step into the energy barrier. He stood as an equal now, not a defendant. "The Galactic Council meets the Terran Alliance," he said simply. "While you were managing your internal politics for the past 30 years, humanity was doing what we do best, making friends." One of the new aliens stepped forward. She introduced herself as Kaya, a crystalline being whose voice resonated like wind chimes. "The humans found our species 41 years ago during their initial survey of this galactic region. They made contact peacefully. They offered technology, but never demanded control. They warned us about the Council's history of absorbing smaller civilizations and suggested we had other options." Another representative spoke. His name was Theron, a reptilian being with iridescent scales. "We are not anomalies. There are 72 species in the Terran Alliance. Some are newly spacefaring. Others have been exploring space for millennia but chose isolation over Council membership. Humanity united us with a simple principle: cooperation without domination." Chancellor Trell found his voice. "You built a rival government in secret. You undermined Council authority? We explored unclaimed space and made peaceful contact with independent species," Marcus interrupted calmly. "We offered partnership to those who wanted it. We built nothing in Council territory. We broke no laws. We simply existed beyond your borders." "You said nothing," Lisa's transmitted accusingly. "You never asked. You assumed the galaxy ended at your frontier." "We knew better." Counselor Yavik, always the pragmatist, asked the critical question. "What do you want from us?" Marcus smiled. "That is the beautiful part. We want nothing from you. We are here to clarify the new reality. The Council remains the dominant political force in explored space. You represent thousands of species. We are not challenging that." Director Alina appeared via hologram. "But the galaxy is larger than you realized. The Terran Alliance controls significant territory beyond your borders. We have our own trade networks, our own security arrangements, our own diplomatic protocols. We are not your subjects. We are your neighbors." "And if we refuse to accept this division?" Trell asked. "If we view your expansion as a threat to galactic stability?" The Alliance representatives did not respond with threats or ultimatums. Instead, Marcus pulled up a holographic star chart. "This is Council space. 41,000 inhabited systems. Impressive. This is Alliance territory. 23,000 systems and growing. Now look at this." He highlighted the border regions. Vast areas of unclaimed space, disputed zones, and unexplored territories. This is opportunity. Room for both our civilizations to grow without conflict. The galaxy contains billions of systems. There is space enough for multiple political structures. But there is a complication, Alina added. Species now have a choice. They can remain with the Council, join the Alliance, or stay neutral. We are not recruiting actively. We are simply existing as an alternative. And some of your members are paying attention, as if choreographed. Counselor Yavik stood. The Merchant Assembly has voted to declare neutrality. We will maintain economic relations with both the Council and the Alliance. But we will not participate in any conflict between you. Over the next hour, 23 more Council species made similar announcements. They were not defecting. Most maintained their Council membership, but they made clear they would not choose sides in a human council. Confrontation. The Council's leverage was evaporating in real time. Scholar Drex, who had been analyzing data throughout the session, offered an observation. We have been thinking about this incorrectly. We assumed humanity's withdrawal was rebellion, that their silence was hostility. But they were not fighting us. They were outgrowing us. It displayed historical analysis. The Council formed 11,000 years ago to bring order to chaos. We succeeded. We created laws, established trade routes, prevented wars. But we also became rigid, bureaucratic, resistant to change. When humanity arrived with new ideas, we treated them as children. When they exceeded our expectations, we saw them as threats. We were so focused on maintaining control that we forgot why control mattered in the first place. Are you saying the Council failed? Lisa's asked. I'm saying we stopped evolving, and humanity showed us the cost of stagnation. Marcus stepped forward. The Council is not obsolete. You maintain stability for thousands of species who depend on your governance. But you cannot dictate terms to everyone forever. Civilizations grow. Powers emerge. The question is whether we can coexist peacefully. Chancellor Trell looked around the chamber. He saw the fragmented council, the neutral species, the shifting power dynamics. For the first time in his long career, he made a decision based on reality rather than pride. What are your terms for coexistence? No terms. Only principles. Mutual recognition of sovereignty. Non-interference in internal affairs. Open borders for trade and immigration. Cooperative security in shared territories. Regular diplomatic contact to prevent misunderstandings. And most importantly, treating each other as equals. The Council voted. It was not unanimous. Several species still harbored resentment. Others feared setting a precedent. But the majority accepted reality. The Terran alliance was too powerful to fight, too beneficial to ignore, and too reasonable to demonize. A new treaty began taking shape. The Accord of Parallel Sovereignty. 2 governmental structures. Mutual recognition. Peaceful coexistence. It was imperfect. Tensions remained. But it was a framework for peace, and in a galaxy that had known too much conflict. That was enough. 3 months after the accord was signed, the galaxy looked different. Unity Station floated at the border between Council and Alliance space, a massive structure built cooperatively by both governments. Ships from hundreds of species docked at its ports. Trade goods flowed through its markets. Diplomats negotiated agreements in its conference halls. It was a symbol of the new reality ambassador. Marcus Webb stood on an observation deck watching the traffic. Vessels from both civilizations moved freely, their crews mingling in the common areas. Some interactions were still awkward, marked by residual suspicion and uncertainty. But most were simply normal. Beings doing business, exchanging eyed. As, learning from each other, Director Alina joined him, her reflection appearing in the transparent aluminum window. How does it feel? Reshaping galactic politics? We did not reshape anything. We just gave species options. The galaxy was always going to evolve beyond the Council's monopoly. We accelerated the timeline. Some of them still hate us. Some always will. But more are curious. And curiosity leads to understanding eventually. Below them, a Council merchant vessel docked next to an Alliance cargo ship. Crew members from both sides met in the loading bay, initially cautious, gradually relaxing. It was a small moment, but it represented something larger. The accord had not solved every problem. Territorial disputes still arose. Cultural misunderstandings caused friction. Some Council species resented humanity's rapid rise. Some Alliance members chafed at diplomatic restrictions. But conflicts were resolved through arbitration now, not warfare. Disagreements led to negotiations, not threats. The galaxy was learning to manage complexity without resorting to domination. Marcus pulled up a status report. The data showed progress in unexpected areas. Joint research projects between Council and Alliance scientists. Collaborative security patrols in border regions. Student exchanges and cultural missions. Even some species held dual membership, participating in both governmental structures. The Council adapted faster than I expected, Alina observed. They had no choice. But some of their leaders deserve credit. Chancellor Terrell stepped down, and his replacement Counselor Rena has been pragmatic. She understands that the galaxy changed, and clinging to the old order would only cause more damage. The old guard still complains. Always will. But the younger generations are embracing the new reality. They grew up watching us build the alliance. To them, multiple power centers seems normal. A notification appeared on Marcus's display. Another species had just applied for alliance membership. A minor civilization from the outer rim that had remained independent for centuries. They were not fleeing council oppression. They simply preferred the alliance's structure. Wow, that makes 86 member species, Alina noted. And the council still has over 2,000. We are not replacing them. We are complementing them. Different approaches for different needs. Some humans wanted us to conquer the galaxy. Marcus laughed. Conquer and do what? Manage trillions of beings across thousands of cultures. That sounds exhausting. Building partnerships is much more sustainable. They watched the station for a while in comfortable silence. The observation deck filled with other beings. A group of council students on an educational tour. Alliance traders negotiating deals. Independent travelers simply passing through. All of them sharing the same space without conflict. You know what surprised me most? Alina said. How many council species actually thanked us? For what? For forcing change? Several ambassadors told me privately that the council had become stagnant. Corrupt in some areas. The bureaucracy was strangling innovation. Our emergence gave reformers leverage to demand improvements. Marcus nodded. Creative destruction. We disrupted the system, and the system had to improve to compete. Everyone benefits. Communication arrived from Earth. The Terran Assembly wanted a status report on Alliance expansion. Marcus composed a brief response emphasizing stability, growth, and peaceful integration. He did not mention the challenges. The species that struggled to adapt. The regions where old tensions persisted. The constant work required to maintain peaceful coexistence. Those were problems, but they were manageable problems. The alternative had been war. Compared to that, diplomacy was easy. What about the long term? Alina asked. Do you think this lasts? Nothing lasts forever. But I think we've built something flexible enough to evolve. The Accord allows for changes. New members. New agreements. New solutions to new problems. That is more than the old council offered. They offered stability. They offered stagnation disguised as stability. There is a difference. Marcus pulled up a long-range sensor map showing explored and unexplored space. The known galaxy was immense, but the unknown regions were larger still. Billions of systems that no one had visited. Countless species that might exist beyond current borders. This is just the beginning, he said. There are other civilizations out there. More powerful than us. More advanced. Stranger than we can imagine. Someday, we will meet them. And when we do, I hope we remember what we learned from the Council. What did we learn? That power without wisdom leads to stagnation. That control is an illusion. That the galaxy is too big and too complex for any one civilization to dominate. And that the best we can hope for is peaceful coexistence with those we share it with. Alina smiled. That is almost philosophical. I've spent 3 months watching 2 galactic governments learn to cooperate, despite centuries of assuming they should dominate. It makes you think. They stood together, watching the traffic flow through Unity Station. Council ships and Alliance vessels moving side by side. Different flags, different governments, different philosophies, but sharing the same space, breathing the same air, building the same future. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had not even tried. They had simply refused to be conquered themselves. They had built something worth protecting, proved that strength did not require domination, and shown that alternatives to the old order were possible. The Galactic Council had panicked when humanity ended diplomacy. But what they discovered was that humanity had not ended diplomacy at all. They had just changed its terms. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy, not through force, not through conquest, not through threats or ultimatums, but through the simple demonstration that there was another way. That species could cooperate without submission. That power could exist without oppression. That the galaxy was big enough for everyone. Marcus Webb looked out at the stars and smiled. The future was uncertain. Challenges would come. Conflicts would arise. But for now, at this moment, the galaxy was at peace, and that was more than humanity had dared to hope for when they first stepped into the council chamber 3 months ago and announced they were done playing by someone else's rules. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed with it, not into conquerors or tyrants, but into something better, into neighbors, into partners, into equals. And that made all the difference. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5